All right, what's up, YouTube? This is Robert. You know me by my channel name, Stay Crushing. If some of you guys have seen on my Snapchat over the last couple of months, actually almost a year, is every now and then I'd throw up a cooking video, and people started hitting me up. Hey, how do you do that? How do you cook this? How do you, do a steak? How do you make that crazy pie that you made, or whatever it is? I'm actually gonna start doing these little instructional videos on YouTube. Now, it's not going to be too in-depth, but it's going to be just enough to where you kind of get the hang of it and you're able to do this yourself at home. Alright, so the first thing is going to be picking out your cut of meat. So for me today, I'm just using a normal Vons bone-in ribeye. It's a choice grade. It's not dry aged or anything fancy. Now, keep in mind, if you do get a prime dry aged steak, you're going to want to actually reduce the cooking times. As you see here, completely coat the steak with the kosher salt. This is the same salt in here, and this has been sitting out already for about a half hour. As you can see, it's starting to sweat, and what I'm going to end up doing is once this is sweat, I'm going to actually rub off and scrape all the salt, and the meat will have absorbed just enough salt to season the steak, but it's also dehydrated the outside so it gets a better sear. Alright, so this is a part that's also pretty crucial, is having the pan at the right temperature. So my pan's just gotten to around 500 to 570 depending on parts of the pan. So I'm going to add in my oil. And you want to add a decent amount, but not too much. The bottle's kind of low, so what you're going to do is you're going to let this sit for about 10-15 seconds just to get up to the right temperature, because if you just have cold oil, hot pan, and cold meat, stuff could start bubbling up pretty nasty. And when you put the steak in, you should immediately hear it begin to sear. If you don't have a loud searing noise, take the steak off and wait until the pan's up to the right temperature. So it should sound like that. Now I'm gonna set my timer for 2 minutes. And so I'm going to do 2 minutes on this side, 2 minutes on the next side, and then I'm going to do minute. The reason being is you don't want to cook the entire steak, half and half, 4 minutes, because the other side is going to cool off. And so this is exactly what we're looking for. I put a decent amount of oil in the pan, but not too much. So it's almost like a shallow fry for the crust. So I'm about ready to turn the steak. The timer says there's about 10 seconds left. Now, very important, when you turn the steak, be as careful as you can not to burn yourself. So now that I flipped the steak for the first time, you'll actually see the crust start to form. It's a very nice, deep golden brown. Sorry about the backfiring Honda in the background. I don't know why, but they just keep driving by and doing that crap. But notice how there's no black. It's not burnt. It's all about keeping the pan and the oil at the right temperature. And if you look too, the salt has fallen out of the pan, or out of the steak into the pan. So you don't have an overly salty steak. It kind of just regulates itself on its own. So like I mentioned before, so the first 4 minutes of cooking is going to be 2 minutes, then 2 minutes, and now this next part is going to be minute. And on those last 2 minutes, I'm going to add in the butter, the garlic, the rosemary, and the thyme, and it's just enough to lock the flavor in, but not burn the garlic, not burn the herbs or the butter. Okay. Man, there are a lot of cars driving by right now while I'm filming this that are just way too loud. So now I'm about ready to flip the steak again. Still no black on the steak. It's all golden or brown, which is what we're looking for. I'm not basting it yet until there's butter in the pan. Everything's looking good so far. So on this next flip, I'm actually gonna finally add in the butter, the garlic, the rosemary, and the thyme, because it's ready now to where there's enough of a crust that's developed on the outside. Now another thing too, when you add herbs to fat, especially thyme, they pop. So as you can see, the butter's starting to froth up. Now when I add this thyme, it's gonna jump, so be very, very careful when you do this. And then the rosemary. And the rest of the garlic. And then I'm going to turn it on the edges just to sear the edge to get that flavor locked in from all the herbs. But as you can tell, the crust is pretty much developed exactly how I wanted it to. It's all selfie vision, so kind of bear with me. And then this is the final part. So what you do is you just take the edges with all that fat and you're just gonna sear it for about 30, maybe 45 seconds tops on each side, just so that it matches the rest of the crust. And now I'm ready to take the steak off. And the last part of this is just waiting it out. So I'm gonna pepper this now. I like to pepper after because when you cook at a high heat and you add the pepper before, I've noticed it gives a very, very bitter and burnt taste to the pepper. And to me, it's just not that enjoyable. I personally think that if you pepper it after, it tastes better. You know, there's some chefs that are professionally trained that may disagree with me, but for me, this is what I find has worked for me. I'm gonna add just a little bit more of these pan drippings because this is where all the flavor's at. So here's a little close-up of the sear and the steak once it came off the pan. I apologize for these camera skills. This is on an iPhone. I'm shooting and doing everything by myself. As this channel starts to take off a little bit more, I might be able to have someone help film. But for now, you guys are going to kind of have to bear with me. So just as a rule of thumb, every minute that you sear a steak, you want to let it rest for at least a minute to a minute and a half. And the reason being is it's not done cooking yet. When you have a steak that's on, you know, a pan that's at over 500 degrees and you have oil in there that keeps the pan at 400 degrees or above, and then you have a steak that was at room temperature, obviously there's going to be some variance from the inside and the outside of the piece of meat. So when you take it off and you let it sit, the outside of the steak finishes cooking the inside and all the juices distribute evenly. So just let it do its thing. I had it on there for about 8 minutes total, so I'm going to let it rest for about 10 minutes. And that's just going to make sure that everything is even throughout. I'm limited with what I can do. So we're going to finally cut into the steak. It's been resting for a little over 10 minutes. And what you want to do is you want to cut it from the bone first to remove that. And because I have a good sharp knife, it's cutting like butter. So I'm gonna arrange this on the plate. Not that big on presentation. I don't know what I'm doing with that stuff, but I'll show you up close the results that you get. So to me, this is a perfect steak. It has a nice char. It's not burnt, there's no black. I didn't let the oil get to the point to where it flashed. And the inside is warm, but it's a nice medium rare. That's because I let it rest. So for me, I couldn't ask for a better steak to present on this video. It came out perfect. I'm extremely pleased with how it came out. So like I said, steak couldn't have come out any better, in my opinion. Perfect medium rare. It pulls apart literally like butter. Seasoned great. It's not too salty. I mean, I just don't know how I'm gonna eat the whole steak. This thing's almost a 30-ounce bone-in ribeye. So for about 2 or 3 people, I mean, this will easily feed them. Like I said, if you like the videos, you know, please subscribe to my channel. I promise it'll get less awkward. I'll have some help with filming. There'll be different friends from, you know, different aspects of life. Like I have a lot of friends that are in, you know, the car community, the drifting community, you know, the grappling community. So it's gonna be more of me just cooking and eating with friends. And then there's gonna also be stuff with the car. But at the end of the day, when you can cook a true restaurant, steakhouse quality steak at home with an $8 a pound Vaughn steak, you know, it's something that really, I don't know, it just adds to your happiness in life.